Katz. You're listening to The Soul of Israel on the landofisrael.com, on the Land of Israel network. Ari Abramowitz. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Rav Shlomo.
Been a while. A lot of traveling.
Yes.
And home. Baruch Hashem, home. I feel very much at home, even though we're not currently at home. We're on our way up north, spending the day together up north with a bunch of our beautiful dear friends we've been learning with for quite some time now. Reconnecting our neshamas, our souls, to its roots, and the roots are the land of Israel. That's pretty good for the landofisrael.com network, no?
It's the right thing. And just to describe the scenic route that we're on right now, we're on our way from Judea all the way up north to Tzfat, and the view right out there. I mean, what are we looking at there?
The Dead Sea. How much, the northern Dead Sea,
Yeah.
how much do you think of the land of Israel you think we're covering today? Percentage-wise?
70?
Probably, right?
Yeah.
I would say 70%.
You'd think a lot of people out there listening to the show probably have an image of Israel as being much larger than it is, just because of the noise Israel makes in the world.
Correct.
But you can fit Israel into the state of Texas 32 times.
Correct.
32 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, are you ready to bid farewell to the book of Bereshit, of Genesis?
I'm
not.
I'm definitely not, and I look back and I cherish every parsha so much, and I don't feel like I capitalized, like I dove in and swam through the richness and the beauty of the book of Bereshit, of Genesis.
Not at all. Happens every year. It happens every single year. So that's why we gotta hold on and swallow every ounce of every word, every letter that's written in this last portion, Vayechi, which describes Jacob on his deathbed bidding farewell to his children, deciding through whom Messiah will come, and paving the way for us to figure out how to go down into exile and eventually get out of exile as well. So we noticed something very beautiful this week. We've been having, like we mentioned before, a week of traveling with our learning group and going to many different areas in the land of Israel to connect us to the roots. And we spent Sunday in one of my favorite places in the world. I know yours as well, and that's Hebron. I don't believe you were with us on Sunday.
It was a very difficult decision, but I couldn't do it. Yeah,
all good. And
Rav Simcha Hachbaum was taking
one of our favorite people in the world. So we had a really special day of learning in Hebron, and we learned something very powerful that I wanted to discuss today on our program, The Soul of Israel. You know, there's no law, there's no halacha, there's no Jewish ruling that tells you where you need to be buried. There are rulings there are laws pertaining to the manner of burial, but location of burial, nowhere. And right before Yaakov Avinu passes away, right before Jacob dies on his deathbed, he summons in his son Yosef, who's now a ruler in Egypt, and he says to him, listen, my dearest son, and the words are very dramatic, if I have found favor in your eyes, imna matzasi chen beinecha, don't bury me in Egypt, bury me in the land of Israel. So what was going on? There's a lot of questions about that statement. Why did Jacob have to ask his son on the level of, please, if I
found favor in your eyes?
That's one question. And the other is, what's the big deal? When you're dead, you're dead. I understand you want to be alive in holiness, but when you die, you're in the ground. Your soul goes back to its root. What's the big deal? There's no law that says you have to be buried in Israel. Let's answer the first question first. First question is, why did he have to beg his son to do something so, what would seem to be, a very legitimate request? I mean, people, we should all live until 120. People put it in their wills. And
he took it a step further. He didn't just say, if I found favor in your eyes. He said, swear to me.
Swear to me. Swear to me that, right. So, the reason why he had to use the concept of grace is because...
Of what?
Of grace, chen, where he had to ask him, is because Rashi, the chief commentator, points us to a very important thing we must think about. Where was Joseph's mother buried? Who was Joseph's mother? Rachel. Where is she buried?
Along the way.
Along the way. So Jacob knew that Joseph would be a little bit angry with him, that my mother was buried on the way. You didn't even schlep her from Beit Lechem to Hebron. You want me to schlep you from Egypt to Hebron? So Jacob explains to Joseph, according to the Midrash, There's a reason why your mother had to be buried there. It's not that I was lazy. It's that we knew that thousands and thousands of years from now, there'll be Jews that'll eventually want to start coming home from the exile. But where's the energy? What will be the reminder for them that they should come home? It's because when their ancestors first left Israel and were exiled out into Babylon, they had to pass by a certain place. And that's where Mama Rachel, where your mother's buried. They had to pass through Beit Lechem. And over there, the Midrash says that Rachel mevakha al banea, me'ana li nachem al banea ki enenu. The prophet says this, that Rachel cried when she saw her children going out into exile, saying, come home, come home. And that crying of your mother, that's why she had to be buried there. That crying is how you could explain a Jew feeling a very sincere desire to return to a home that they never physically lived in. It's because they could still hear your mother crying. So please forgive me, but I had to bury her there. That's maybe one of the explanations we can understand why Jacob had to talk to his son in such a, I don't know about, you listeners, but when I talk to my children, I don't really say pretty please with a cherry on top. If I found grace in your eyes, can you give me a cup of water? Like, that's how you ask maybe a peer or a king. If I have found grace in your eyes, not your child. That's one. But what was to the second question? There's no law as to where you have to be buried.
Oh, right. So repeat the second question. Second question.
What's the big
First
deal?
question is why did you have to beg him? Second question is
What's the big
why
deal?
make such an Indian?
Why make such an Indian? There's no law. Just recently I was in New York and I saw cemeteries filled with great rabbis being buried in the not.
We
not
just
in the
flew
land.
to the Ukraine explicitly for that reason.
Exactly. So, going back to Chen. What is Chen? When someone has charm, they realize that life is more complicated than just making sure you always do the right thing. You need more than that to get through to the real depths of life. Who is Yaakov talking to? Yosef. Who is Yosef? The tzaddik. Always did everything right. And friends, let's not underestimate the power of always doing everything right. He always did everything right. He was a king. He was a ruler. He wasn't the Baal Avera, the one who erred, who sinned. So what's left for Jacob to tell his son on his deathbed? You could just imagine when you're sitting there the last few hours and you know you're about to leave the world, what do you want to leave for your children? You want to fix their souls. You don't want to just tell them, listen, the money in that bank goes to that person. You want much more than that. Jacob wanted to fix his son's soul. He wanted to still give him a chance to feel like he could do a tikkun in this world. So he tells him, my son, to teach you Torah, I have nothing else to teach you. In fact, you know more than me. On that level of tzaddik, Talmid Chacham, you know everything. But imna matzasi chen beinecha, I want to connect you to the land of Israel. Because in the land of Israel, you don't learn everything by always doing everything right. You learn the lessons of the land through falling a million times and getting up. And in order to get up and to feel that you're worthy of getting up, you must find chen in yourself. Further, and this following teaching from Rabbi Shlomo Krabach is exactly what knocked off our socks in Hebron. According to the letter of the law, does Israel belong to us Jewish people? Yeah.
Yes.
But is that enough to make me feel connected to it because something is legitimately, legally mine?
No.
No. This microphone you're holding in your hand, is it yours?
Yes.
The station owns these microphones.
Exactly, the network.
Legally, you own these microphones, correct?
Correct.
Does it make you feel close to it?
More so than if it wasn't one, but not really. I don't.
On the level of chen, what's chen? There's no role over here of chen. What Jacob wanted to connect Joseph to is to connect us to the land of Israel on the level of chen. That even if I own it legally, that's not enough of a reason for me to feel my real, sincere connection to the land. Because Jacob knew there'd be a time there'll be legal disputes over the land of Israel, like we have till today. And it's so clear that the world could care less about, on a legal level, if something is owned to you or not. What we know we need to do is to connect to the land through the level of Chen, through charm. When you have charm in the eyes of something, that thing becomes important to you and precious to you. Not just because I can legally say, I own this, but because my heart says, how could I live without this? And Jacob knew that if you want to give a chance for the Jews to get out of exile one day, which was what he was preparing for us in this parsha, you need to connect people to the level of Chen. And that's how we look at that whole episode of what happened on Jacob's bed right before he took off, on his deathbed, right before he took off from this world. Because, again, owning something and feeling close to it doesn't really work. Doesn't really happen. So I've been thinking about this concept for a while, for the last few days. And I'm wondering, how do we spread the connection and the love of the land of Israel to the Jews of the world today on the level of Chen? Because look, on a legal level... I was literally, as you're speaking... I'm sure you're thinking the same thing.
That's exactly what I was thinking about right now.
On a legal level, all Jews in the world know that Israel belongs to us. That's not the dispute. But that's not enough to get them home.
Right.
That means that we need to relearn the Parsha again. Our Parsha, Vayechi. And really beg Hashem for Yaakov Avinu's words to find their way into the heart and soul of the nation. Because if the calling of the land of Israel wasn't just that's the right place to be, but rather that's the how could I not be there, we'd have a much better chance of seeing the true, full, complete ingathering of the exiles. The only question is, which we're leaving for all of you listeners, and we're waiting your emails, how do we do it better? How do we spread the message of the connection to the land of Israel through Chen a bit stronger?
Well, can I ask you, how do you do it? Right? You travel the world, you're constantly on the road, and do you have an approach? Do you have a strategy? I feel like it's something maybe you can't really have a strategy for.
You know, you mentioned the name before of a very dear brother of ours who actually was our tour guide in Hebron, by Simcha Hachbam. One time before one of our trips, one of the trips we did to the States, he gave me a bracha. He said, listen, when you go out there, just remember, you're speaking on behalf of Hashivenu Avinu LeToratecha. You're asking Hashem, please let me be a shliach ne'eman, a faithful messenger of your word, not of my word, not of my own agenda. If it's about Hashem's agenda, it's something else. No one ever moved to Israel because they were judged. And no one ever stopped smoking cigarettes because someone told them, it's bad for you. Right? They came to it from some kind of internalization. In the earlier years of traveling, it was very, very difficult because I felt like I walked into any shul, school, and I became a judge. It was very hard for me. And for years I asked Hashem, please, two things. A, let me not judge, and B, let me also not get too depressed over the situation of seeing the so to speak thriving of diaspora Jewry. Today's day and age, when I go, all I talk about is the twinkle in my children's eyes as they experience learning the word of God in the land of Israel. I bring it to the children. I bring it back to their experience of growing up in the land. And I hope that there'll be more and more things that I could find to connect to and bring up and bring forth. But for now, it's my kinderlach, it's my children, because we live in Efrat, which is about 5 minutes from Beit Lechem, 15 minutes from Hebron, and 15 minutes from Jerusalem. When my daughter is learning about the binding of Isaac on the altar, and she wants to get a feel of it, all she has to do is lift up her eyes from her classroom and look at the neighboring mountains to feel that incredibly powerful connection to it. As much as I can learn about it in Williamsburg or in Sydney or in France, and malasot, there's nothing you could do.
So I definitely think that's a very good approach, going through the children. I think another thing that's striking me right now is thinking about yesterday, you brought a great Rav to come teach us, Rav Nassim Maimon. And he said a few things. He was talking about the air of the land. Because just being geographically close to the place where it happened, okay, that's good intellectually, but there's an X factor. There's a different air, a different energy, a different vibration, a different frequency that experientially causes life and the connection with God to be different here. So to at least, try to convey that. I thought it was beautiful when he said, we're not better in Eretz Yisrael.
Very important.
We're not better. We're better off.
But I think when he said that, it also really struck a chord in me. But I think we erred there. I think the early stages of Aliyah got caught up a little bit in look at us, look who we are, not look at what's given to us.
Right.
I think we need a big tikkun there. I think that'll probably help raise this concept of Chen a little bit more from to where it needs to be. I think, but dearest friends, every email you send goes right to the heart. We would love to hear from you, those that live here, those that don't yet. What do you feel? How could we raise not just the importance of living in the land of Israel, but the importance of or the necessity of opening our heart to the passionate connection that each soul has to this holy land in a non-judgmental way, and the way that Yaakov Avinu wanted to teach Yosef on the level of Chen. And that is why he's basically telling Yosef, his son, you're right, on the level of right or wrong, I can even find legitimate halachic reasons as to why maybe I can stay in the land of outside the land. On the level of right or wrong, there are halachas that say there are 3 reasons why you could leave the land: for parnasa, for livelihood, to find a wife, and to learn Torah. Maybe I could find those reasons as well, but still, how could I not be here?
Well, can I just ask you on that, because it's a question that I had when I think he addressed it, but it didn't absorb for me. It's still an outstanding question I have. There's 3 reasons you could leave Israel, right? To find a wife, to find a husband, whichever one it is, to earn a living, okay? But to learn Torah, the whole message of yesterday that we've been talking about right now,
Torah
is that Torah, it's a different thing here. So it would seem that it's counterintuitive to say you could leave Israel to learn Torah when, on a qualitative level, the Torah cannot possibly be there what it is here. So why is that a halacha?
Before 1939, 1945, I could hear that, for whatever the reason was. Somehow, I don't know what it is. If the greater Torah scholars were outside the land, but now that's not the situation. And
my question is, if it's an intrinsic truth, then it doesn't matter what year it is, even if the greatest yeshivas are in Europe.
Right.
Is it not better to... I guess the answer is no.
Right, but again, if someone hearing this would, God forbid, sense any level of judgment, then we're not doing that justice either. So that's why, even though the question is valid, that's still, I don't know if that's going to raise the concept of Chen up from the ground. And that's what we're really aiming towards. And this is how we bid farewell to the opening of our lives, to the opening of the Torah, the first book. And this is how we go out into Egypt. And we can make it out in any exile if I remember why I'm there, to lift up sparks and get back home. Well, it still takes us another 4 books of the Torah, and then a few books of and then the beginning of the first book of the prophet till we do that. But that's the story of our lives, and we're still there. So, like we learned this week in Rav Kook's teaching, something about the land of Israel and the prophecy and the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit of holiness that hovers throughout the land, and the air here of the land as well, that's machkim, that makes one wiser. Please God, our journey out of whatever personal galus we're in is hopefully almost done, and God will come and reveal himself with 0 concealment, saying, Kinderlach, thank you so much for the wait. I've been waiting for you too.
Let me ask you, you travel a lot. Let's say there are listeners out there. Well, I feel like you're going to be maybe mad that I'm even asking you this. They want to bring you to their community. They want their community to experience your Chen, your music, your teachings, and the way you weave them in so beautifully together. Is there a way to bring you out?
My highest honor. Please reach out. Absolutely.
And they just email you directly.
Yeah, that's what I deal with. That's, in today's day and age, it's very easy to connect to people on just a tachlis level, to begin in touch. Please reach out, Shlomo at thelandofisrael.com. So that's really, talking to you here as we're traveling through the land, I'm looking at every rock and pebble
Palm trees.
It's amazing, friends. On the one hand, on the one side of the highway, there are palm trees, and on the other side of the
barren, empty desert.
Mamish. This is the story of our lives. It's all of us. One side of me is blossoming, one side of me is crying. But at least I have people that I could cry with here and people that I could laugh with here. Friends, join us. Shalom from the land of Israel.